When you look at the Brexit deal, finally we have an agreement. What does it mean for the EU? Were they showing their softer side? Is it because the EU can't live without an agreement? And do you think it will be voted through in Westminster tomorrow?
Well, first of all, from EU side, we had always emphasized that we want to reach an agreement, that no deal Brexit would be very disruptive, both for EU, but especially for UK economy. Therefore, we had been working to achieve this agreement, and it's positive that this deal has been reached, and indeed we are looking forward for ratifications both in UK and European parliaments.
What is the chance, Deputy Prime Minister, that we get a Brexit deal? And if we don't get an approval in Parliament tomorrow, is the extension the only way forward? President Juncker was saying that actually they won't give them an extension.
I think one thing fundamentally has changed. Until 2 days ago, you had a UK Prime Minister who was still saying, I'm willing to go ahead with a no-deal Brexit. That has changed, because here he has a deal, but he also implied that if he would not get a majority in Parliament, that probably he would campaign into a general election or an extension with a deal. And this is an important element, because it means that the uncertainty that was attached to a chaotic no-deal Brexit, that one is gone. And that, I think, is a major change of strategy of the UK Prime Minister.
Both of you are students of European history, the dynamics across the Channel. I'm thunderstruck in the last 24 hours of the trenchant articles on the future of Ireland. Or maybe there's even the separate Scottish vote. Now, I don't want you to comment on British politics and domestic politics, but are we missing here the potential turmoil to come if we get some kind of deal and move on? Are we missing something out there in the future?
Well, actually, that was exactly one of the reasons why reaching the deal was difficult, that EU has been very clear that we need to respect the Good Friday Agreement. We need to avoid hard border within Ireland, between Republic and Northern Ireland, and that as the EU, we will only agree to the deal that is acceptable for Ireland. So from that point of view, the deal we are having now safeguards the integrity of the single market and safeguards the Good Friday Agreement in Ireland.
I want to talk to both of you. You are both products of American education, engineering, Clark Engineering at Maryland and at Kellogg as well. We have a president who's clearly comfortable with an isolationist policy. You live the advantages of come to America and get educated. Do you see a permanence to the president's strategy, or do you feel that it's a one-off issue where we can get back to some normalcy of the multilateral world that gave you your educations in America?
Well, I have no crystal ball, but I would think that if you look at it from a logical perspective, in 10, 15 years down the road, we Europeans and Americans, we will find each other. I'm quite convinced on that. What happens between now and the next 15 years is highly unpredictable. That's clear. But we are starting to see the cost of that. If you look at this year, this is one of the first years where the volume growth of worldwide trade is going to be around 1%, where the GDP growth is going to be 3%. So the worldwide trade is growing much slower than the economic growth. That is a very telling element, because it means that there is actually some kind of a break on worldwide trade, and that's not a good thing. If you look at the World Bank report that you have annually, that is explaining what impact that has on worldwide value change, and it's a negative impact.
But Vice President, how important is it that we deal with Brexit to focus on that? We also have some extra Trump tariffs coming into effect today that will hurt
I didn't know that they're in effect today.
We knew that. They're in effect today. Will the EU retaliate?
Well, first of all, as regards tariffs which are being imposed today, they are related to the WTO dispute in Airbus case. So basically what US is here doing is implementing this ruling on Airbus case. But we know that there's also Boeing case coming, and WTO has found that there had been violations of subsidies rules both in Airbus and Boeing case. So from our our point of view, we regret that the US has chosen to go with tariffs, and we would have preferred a negotiated settlement. We are still open on this negotiated settlement to agree on the rules of subsidies in airline industry, because there are also new competitors coming in, and it would be in interest of both EU and US to have a clarity about around the rules, and instead of just having another round of tariff escalation, because once the Boeing ruling will come in, then EU would also have to respond with its own tariffs. And at the end of the day, it's going to hurt people and businesses on both sides of the Atlantic.
But how do you see that developing? Are we going to have a lot more countries pushing for retaliating against trade tariffs with the US?
If I may come in here, we are not talking here about retaliating, because in this case we are at least within WTO framework, and that's different from steel and aluminium tariffs, which were unilateral US decision, and yes, indeed, EU retaliated, if you want. This is within a WTO ruling.
Agreements,
it's the WTO ruling, so we are respecting it. But we're saying that there will be another ruling coming in Boeing case, and then we will be forced also to impose our tariffs. We would prefer to avoid this mutual imposition of tariffs, but we cannot talk here about, retaliation or things like that.
But it's not a good thing. We used to have a US president who said towards the economy, don't do stupid stuff. If you would look at what is happening today, unfortunately, a lot of what he would have called stupid stuff.
Give us a micro tariff story of Belgium. Give us one example of how Trump tariffs, the mercantilism of President Trump, directly affects not Brussels, EU, international, but the nation of Belgium.
We are one of the top 5 most international economies in the world. We are a small, open economy, highly competitive, a lot of American investment happening in our country. So if there is a strain on worldwide trade, it has a direct impact on our economy. It has a direct impact on the US economy as well. We have evolved over the last decades to highly sophisticated, integrated value chains. If you start going through that, you will be slowing down growth and you will be slowing down prosperity. And we need more prosperity, for example, to tackle climate change.
Vice President, what's your biggest concern for the EU economy right now?
Well, as regards EU economy currently is slowing down, even though we expect economic growth to continue in the EU. We see that fundamentals are still strong. Services sector is developing strong. Jobs are still being created. But yes, indeed, we see slowdown. Part of it's related to the global trade tensions. Part is related to geopolitical instability, also in EU's neighborhood. There are some internal issues. Well, it looks that we would be able to avoid no-deal Brexit, so that's already a good thing for EU economy. There's some fiscal policy uncertainty in certain EU member states. So there are some concerns to be addressed. So from EU side, what we are very much emphasizing, it's a need to strengthen the resilience of both EU and EU member states' economy to be able to withstand potential economic shocks.